The world wants more good Aliens and Terminator movies. Or does it? Either way, James Cameron seems more interested in giving us 120 million Avatar movies. I'm Sasha Perl-Raver, and this is Screen Junkies News. James Cameron has given us some of our favorite blockbusters of all time. Aliens, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Terminator, but is he at all interested in ever jumping back in on those franchises, or has his focus solely shifted to Avatar for the next 100 years? Asked about the state of the Aliens franchise by Vulture, Cameron said, quote, "I don't think it's worked out terribly well. I think we've moved on beyond it. It's like we've had the whole Freudian biomechanoid meme. I've seen it in 100 horror films since. But wait, there's more." Talking about the Terminator franchise with the Daily Beast, Cameron said, quote, "There's probably some degree to where it's lost relevance, ellipses, 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 but I think it's possible to tell a great Terminator story now." Well, with me to discuss all of this are Roth Coronet, Mark Andreyko, and Dan Murrell. But before we get started, you cannot talk about Alien without talking about somebody who we lost over this weekend. John Hurt passed away at the age of 77. We were all heartbroken to hear this news. Cancer is the worst. He was the best. He appeared in over 200 films and television shows. He will be sorely missed by everyone on this panel, and I'm sure everybody watching. So John Hurt, our thoughts are with you and your family, and thank you for all the great entertainment that you gave us. But let's get into what James Cameron has given us. So first question, guys. Do we need more Alien and Terminator films? Dan, I will start with you.
I mean, we need more good films. It doesn't matter what they're about. We just need more good movies. I think it's very interesting that but when Terminator Genisys was coming out, Genisys was coming out, I would like to point out, before it came out, he said, and this is a direct quote, "I feel like this franchise has been reinvigorated, like this is a renaissance." So it's interesting that now he thinks that maybe we've moved on from the Terminator movies. Very interesting. James Cameron is he is his own guy, and he always has been. He was kind of on the outs for a while. I think he kind of got this reputation as an egomaniac, and then Titanic happened, and then he could do whatever he wanted, and he disappears. He goes away for like a decade at a time. It's very strange. He's an enigma. I don't get him. I don't understand him.
Well, Mark, you had some interesting thoughts about why he would want to bring Terminator back.
Because he has the rights.
There you go.
Of course. You know, when you buy an antique at a garage sale, you refinish it and sell it for a higher price. So I don't think we need another Terminator movie. I think computers running our lives and being in a dystopia is happening right now. And I don't need to see how many different times John Connor can be re-evaluated and rebuilt and made into a Terminator, or maybe not. I just feel that franchise is really, really played out. We should just end it with the second one and ignore the rest.
Well, this is so interesting because your point against why we don't need it is actually exactly his point as to why we do. He said those movies, the two I was involved in, they were about how we dehumanize ourselves. In a time where people are absorbed by their virtual social world, I mean, just look around. I always say if Terminator was about a war between humans and machines, look around any restaurant or airport lounge and tell me the machines haven't won when every human you see is enslaved to their devices.
Yes, but why would you pay $18 and spend 2.5 hours in the theater to watch what you can see happen around you even more graphically and creepily than any sort of fictional movie?
Interesting. Yeah. Roth?
I don't know. I mean, a couple of things. First, I don't know that I have the ability to be very rational when it comes to the Terminator because I love that franchise so much.
Wait. Hold on. You don't love that franchise.
Okay.
You love two movies that were made 30 years ago.
Hang on. Here's what I love. I love Terminator 1 and 2, which are the ones that James Cameron did.
Yes.
And I love Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles, which was
a great show.
The tragically too soon canceled series that was on Fox.
Agreed.
And I love that series so much. So to me, every time I think about like, oh, is this world over? There's nothing left to tell in this world. We've seen it in 3. Though some people like 3, and there are things that I like about it. Certainly Genesis and Salvation.
What?
Well, that's
I like the ending of Terminator 3.
Yes.
I like it a lot.
There you go.
Because it was over.
But Sarah Connor Chronicles told me that there is more story. There are really interesting stories to be told in this world. And I think I get excited again about a Terminator movie. And I also still think the Knicks are going to win one day. So maybe don't trust me. When I think that James Cameron is going to come back and he's going to get the rights back.
Well, that is
Yes,
the most
but-
exciting part, is
but
that he would do it.
Sarah Connor Chronicles worked because it was a long serialized story,
Yes.
but there was character stuff. When we're making movies, and Cameron movies are going to be the most expensive of all, it's going to be $400 million. Do we need to see another Terminator get its skin falling off, metal, chasing someone, getting stopped, not getting stopped, getting stopped, not getting stopped? Evocative ending. If it was a TV series, yes, because then we can actually explore character and the history of these worlds and different characters like that. But as a feature, I think we've seen it enough times already. I don't think there's any, it's like a Jaws sequel. The shark's gonna kill some people, they're gonna get trapped, they're gonna almost escape, they're gonna almost escape, they're gonna kill the shark, the end, rinse, wash, repeat. I think if we did this as a series, if Sarah Connor Chronicles got rebooted again or continued, I think there's something there to explore the details in it. But as a big franchise movie, I think it's just going to be the same thing over and over again.
Dan has feelings. Dan has a lot of
when
feelings.
we talk about James Cameron, I also want to. We have particularly when a director goes away and makes very few films. We have this idea of that they're always the same filmmaker. Let's keep in mind we're now 20 years removed from Titanic. Avatar is remembered for making a lot of money, and it's remembered for bringing 3D back. Avatar is not, I don't think, remembered by a great number of people as a great movie. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but like Avatar is, I was reading an article a while ago that was like, has a movie ever made more money than Avatar and made less of a cultural footprint? I mean, it's almost like that movie never existed. And when people say like, oh, I want James Cameron to come back and do Terminator, like you want James Cameron from 20 years ago to come back and do Terminator. You want Abyss James Cameron. You want True Lies James Cameron.
I do want
Abyss.
both
And
of
I
those
don't
James
know
Camerons.
if that James Cameron is still there and if that James Cameron is interested in making those kinds of movies.
But this is a great question. What do we want from James Cameron? What would we like to see?
Well, I mean, I think that, look, the question too, the interesting thing to me about how he posited that Terminator is relevant but Alien isn't is kind of odd in the sense that, and he did, we want to like give him a credit.
Well,
and
because
say
he said in the article,
heavily caveated.
please say that I love Ridley Scott and I will
Yeah.
see anything Ridley Scott directs and he's an artist, but
But it's interesting to me because he's saying that Terminator is reflecting something about technology and how it reflects back to us. And it becomes this question of how do we dehumanize ourselves via technology? But where Aliens has gone is that exact question, except it's biotech instead of digital tech.
And again, can I just say, like he said, like, oh, I've seen the story about Alien in 100 other movies. Yeah, we have Black Mirror. The same thing that he's saying you can tell with Terminator. Well, yeah, I've seen that times 100 in every other thing that's been made since Facebook came out. I'm very frustrated with James Cameron because I think he's a very talented filmmaker and he just kind of, I don't know if he gets off on it. He's like the George R.R. Martin of movies. He just announces something and he just keeps pushing the date back and getting people, oh, when are you going to make it? And then the story doesn't become about what he's making. It becomes about him trying to make it and not making it.
Yes, but even though he only does a movie every 20 years, every time he does a movie every 20 years that is a huge budget and has the worst advanced press, it makes $1 billion and makes more money than the last
true.
one. So it's really hard to count him out. And in defense of Avatar, I don't find Avatar to be a brilliant movie, but I certainly think it's very entertaining. And for that matter, I only want to see 3D movies if James Cameron makes them, because he's the only one that makes it in an environment and not a, ooh, look at the ping pong ball coming at the
something's
screen.
being thrown at your face. But I want to know what you would want to see from him. Mark, what movie do you want to see James Cameron make?
I actually do want to see Avatar sequels because the worlds and stuff that he created there and the other places where he was going to go, I want to see those environments, because James Cameron movies lately have not become movies about where you go see the story. They've become kind of immersive where they're almost VR to an extent.
Of course.
Because Avatar was a very familiar story. It was Pocahontas, it was Fern Gully. I'm not going to give him any crap for that because we're retelling stories. That's what movies do. But I thought, I saw Avatar 3 times in the theater in 3D because it was just so, you were watching it and you're like, oh my, how is this not real? Sam Worthington is a better actor CG than he is as an actual human being.
That's straight up.
So, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Do I want to have coffee with James Cameron? No, he's probably a jerk, but you have to be an egomaniac and a jerk to create these worlds.
I mean, I would definitely want to have coffee with James Cameron. I would not marry him. I would definitely want to have coffee with him though, because to me, I love James Cameron because I think I don't love everything he does and I don't love all of his films equally, but I will say that there is a level of true genius to him.
Well, there's a baseline quality to all of his works. Yeah, that's pretty high.
I mean, he is out there inventing ways to get to the freaking Mariana Trench in his spare time.
Yeah.
In his spare time. There's a book that Rebecca Keegan wrote about James Cameron called The Futurist that will give you so much insight into how his mind works and how obsessive he is and how he will push the boundaries of technology. So I will say this, whatever we see from him next will be unlike anything we've seen before. That is
that's what
I wish he
frustrates
could
me.
I wish he could make the Howard Hughes story, because he is sort of like the modern day Howard Hughes. He's this guy who's crazy and has so much money, but every time he does something, it inexplicably works and changes the face of technology.
So I believe if he got his hands on Terminator, that it would be an interesting, he would find a way to tap back into that world that would refresh it. I really do believe that.
And the reason that, and I don't want to sound like I don't like James Cameron, I think pound for pound, movie by movie, James Cameron has maybe the most consistent filmography of just about any director that I can think of.
Says
certainly
the man who
in the
loves
modern
Spielberg
age.
more than anybody.
Says us more than anybody.
Earth.
Spielberg made Always too. Spielberg made a lot
That's
of
a
bad
very sweet movie.
Yeah, but it's not one of his best.
No, it's certainly not
Movie by
very
movie,
sweet.
James Cameron has one of the best filmographies of any current director. The BFG is not good. I think what frustrates me when he talks about going back, then people say like, do you want to see James Cameron make another Terminator movie? No. For the same reason that I don't want to see him make 4 more Avatar movies. I agree, he is innovative, and you get so few. We're gonna have so few James Cameron movies, and to know that he's spending now 9 years. Avatar came out in 2009, so 9, probably 15 years just on Avatar is frustrating, because I want to see what else he's got, and you don't have. You're only gonna get so many.
You're not getting that anytime soon. So he also gave a quote on Avatar and said his focus is only on those films right now. He said it's not only on Avatar 2, it's on Avatar 2, 3, and 4, and 5 equally. That's exactly how I'm approaching it. They've all been developed equally. I'm just finishing the script on Avatar 5. I'm now starting the process of active prep. So basically, he is diving into this world the same way he dove into the Mariana Trench, and we are going to only see that.
I think he's going to shoot in the Mariana Trench.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
I don't know. That is entirely, I'm not certain on that, so don't quote me on that 100%.
Mariana Trench is my new drag name.
Yes!
That's great, because Charlie Feldman's is Helena Handbasket. Speaking of Charlie Feldman, hi, girlie. You're over there on the socials for us.
So we asked what viewers would like James Cameron to force him lovingly to create for us. They wanted to bring him into the MCU with Howard the Duck.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be fascinating.
Somebody's still drunk from the weekend.
God bless him. And that was TJ Dex. Delisha Russell is saying no more Avatar sequels. So with Dan on that.
Delisha, I love you, girl, but you screwed.
And then the modern spectacle with my favorite answer yet. He should do a really good Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, because the franchise deserves it, and love to modern spectacle because that cartoon series.
That is a great answer.
That is Avatar: The Last Airbender is such an awesome series. And as much as I love Cameron, I actually don't know that he's the perfect person for that series.
I think it's just truly for troll and pun sake.
Yeah.
I have a theory about Avatar, which is I understand how everybody feels, and I agree. 15 years of Cameron's time on Avatar does seem like a little bit of a shame. Like, he could be doing so many other things. And I get that he's like, it's all going to be a different habitat and a different part of the planet and a different environment. I agree with you, Mark. Yeah, like, all stories have been told before, pretty much. But I think the thing about Avatar is, and whether this makes you like it anymore or not, the story was from the point of view of the planet, not the people. And if you look at who was the most two-dimensional in the film, the most fleshed out and dimensional character was the planet, and then it went the Na'vi, and then it went the human beings. And I feel like it in and of itself makes a point about how we believe we are the center of the universe. And if we're not the most interesting thing in the room, then the movie's done something wrong. But maybe it's pointing out something that we're not the center of the universe. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it's a really good point. But it does not speak to the storytelling.
Sure.
Because I will say, I walked out of Avatar the first time I saw it because the 3D actually made me kind of sick. And I had to go back and see it in 2D. I think that it is visually spectacular. I don't think it's a great story. And the thing that I miss about early James Cameron, like The Abyss, like the early Terminator movies, is that he was telling great stories in a grounded and gritty way. Like the resuscitation scene in The Abyss is so emotional and beautiful, and that's what's missing. That gasp, that's what's missing from his movies now. I want him to bring more humanity to it, which is exactly what you're talking about. He's distanced himself by making the planet the center.
Well, he's becoming Skynet. He's becoming more fascinated with technology and less fascinated with working working with actors. But that's also not necessarily just his fault. That's the fault of this industry. Movie studios only want to make $300 million movies. They'd rather make one entirely CG movie about robots for $300 million than 10 $30 million movies. So it's not just his fault. He's just caught up in this thing of reboots and technology and visuals and not characters.
That's why he needs to go have coffee or lunch or drinks or whatever with George Miller. Because George Miller went out in the desert for a year and lost his damn mind and delivered what I think was one of the most original, thrilling, just amazing movies that I'd seen in quite a while, and I would like to see that. I would like to see him I go to the Mariana Trench for a year and lose his damn mind. James Cameron needs to go somewhere for a year and lose his damn mind and come back with something. And we'll see. Because I guarantee you George Miller came back from the desert with everything that he shot for Mad Max Fury Road and said, I don't know what this is, but maybe
But it's
something.
awesome!
Exactly.
It is so awesome!
I would like to, James Cameron, go lose your damn mind somewhere and come back and bring us something, and we'll go see it.
George Miller!
But George Miller is a much more versatile filmmaker. George Miller did Babe 2, Lorenzo's Oil, and the Mad Max franchise.
Well, Cameron can do comedy. Cameron's done action. I mean, Cameron's more versatile than people give him credit for.
Well, that's why Mark's idea earlier, we were talking about what sequel we would like to see James Cameron do, and Mark said Titanic 2, which I would like to call Titanic 2 Cruise Control. And I think that's still a good idea.
This is what he needs to do. First of all, since before I was having coffee with him, now I want to be on the peyote trip with him and George Miller.
In Tunisia.
If I can be in on that in Tunisia, that's great. Let's make that happen. What I think he needs to do is he's come out before and said, I'm not a great writer. I don't love the writing process. I don't write great dialogue. And yet he doesn't work with another screenwriter. So Terminator was co-written with Gail Ann Hurd, who is now a producer on The Walking Dead. Why don't you go find a writing partner and do what you do best, which is visually tell a story and innovate?
I think he probably has had many people who've attempted to be his writing partners who have walked away.
And
because
that's
his
why he keeps getting
reputation
divorced.
precedes him. His reputation is he is a genius, but with someone with that sort of specific vision along the lines of like a David Fincher, when they know exactly how everything's going to look, I don't want to work with that because you're going to be a stenographer at most, and I can see why it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because he has such fully realized visions that how do you bring someone into that when you're micromanaging everything?
This is why I'm a huge fan of directors who are married, because I feel like when Spike Jonze and Sofia Coppola were married, they had the best work. They both turned out the best work because they influenced each other. Miranda July and Mike Mills influenced each other, and their work is better for it. And I honestly think that when he was married to Catherine Bigelow, his work was better because she was sort of forcing the issue and making him a more interesting director. Charlie, what do you think? What would you like to see from this franchise, or what would you like to see him do as a sequel?
I would definitely like to see him slow his roll on Terminator. I think everyone should slow the roll on Terminator. I don't know. If they wanted to make it a more intimate story in a sort of a Black Mirror context, I think that'd be very interesting. Here's my conspiracy theory about why he wants to do these many Avatar films. He's found the technology to upload his consciousness, and Avatar and the home tree is exactly where he wants to be. So he's just trying to give him a lot of stories for him to play out in the other realm. Sort of a Sam Junipero thing.
He's become
awesome.
Skynet.
He is. Well, we want to know what you guys think. Why don't you comment below? You can tweet us at SJ News. Do you want to see more sequels? Do you want to see a new Terminator with him at the helm? Or what would you like to see from these Avatar movies that we're getting until 2048? Let us know. Thanks for being with us.